that good? Oh my goodness, you just started both things at the same time. You're a master. Ooh. Ooh. That's kind of cool. Anyway, I better start. Hello everybody and welcome to the next little endeavor of ours into the world of Scott Pilgrim on Jack's Train of Thought this week. We are going to be covering characters today. And sorry, I know I'm not going to be spending too much time in front of the camera in these episodes right now, but leave me alone. I look like garbage. I'm wearing a Brazil shirt right now, and they didn't even win, so who cares? So, we're just going to jump right into it then, why don't we? We'll go ahead and start off with the protagonists. Of course, we have Scott Pilgrim, the main protagonist. He is in a crappy garage band with his friends Steven and Kim. According to the comics, he is also the best fighter in the province, and he shows it off during the battles. However, he has broken the hearts of almost every girl he's ever dated, and the consequences of his actions go unnoticed. He has a certain charm about him, but he also suffers from ignorance.
Bread makes you fat.
Bread makes you fat?
And a lack of thinking about his actions. He can be pretty dumb and has little motivation. As stated in the previous episode, Scott is a relatable character, living a somewhat normal life. And that's cool and all, but what makes Scott a good character isn't just his relatability, fighting prowess, or ability to jump through windows without taking damage.
Is Scott here?
You know what? He just left.
Really?
Yeah. Sorry.
Rather, it's his development. Scott's character is all about learning from past mistakes to become better and stronger. It's not about learning to defeat yourself, it's about learning to live with yourself. This is represented by Scott's encounter with Nega Scott at the end of the movie. Instead of fighting him or killing him, it's recognizing him as part of Scott, and building himself up from there. Scott isn't exactly an underdog, but he's not exactly at the top of his game either. This leaves him in the middle. He's good at fighting, but terrible at relationships. He is a member of a band, but he plays bass. Scott is a balanced character that makes him an excellent protagonist for the movie, and Michael Cera sells the performance like a champ. Next up is Ramona Flowers, the secondary protagonist, and she's a bit of a mixed bag. Ramona works for Amazon, delivering packages on her roller skates, and can travel extremely quickly through what I can only describe as dimensional pockets called subspace highways. This has gone into more in depth in the comics, but the movie kind of sidelines this. She is an excellent fighter with a pretty dope hammer, and changes her hair color more than my sister does. Her roller skates somehow work on snowy ground and desert dreamscapes, and her handbag is made from the same material as Mary Poppins' purse and Deadpool's pockets. Ramona has a definite, cool, mysterious girl aura about her, and she plays it off with confidence. However, she has a similar problem as Scott when it comes to dating. Her heartbreak record is longer than Scott's, and while Scott is oblivious to his effect when it comes to the girls he's dated, Ramona knows, and just doesn't really care. She's cold and lacks commitment. She moved to Toronto to forget her past, but as the movie points out, forgetting our past won't help our future. Ramona makes a good counterweight to our protagonist. Ramona may be the literal girl of his dreams, but she's definitely not perfect. She's way out of Scott's league, yet she is still human and is suffering the consequences of her past choices. She is much different than Scott, but has so much in common with him. Her not a care in the world image is covering up for her many imperfections. This balances the two lead characters out very well. Wallace Wells. Wallace is Scott's cool gay roommate, which is a brilliant comedic choice considering he's kind of the straight man in Scott's life. He has more common sense than any other character and he cares about Scott, but not in a gay way or anything. Wallace shows that he cares for Scott by actually confronting him on his crappy behavior. He forces Scott to recognize his shortcomings and encourages him to make the right choices. Even though Wallace acts as the metaphorical straight man, he is still one of the funniest characters in the film and is important in Scott's character development. Knives Chow. Knives is a 17-year-old Chinese girl from a Catholic school and is maybe the purest character in this movie full of characters with mediocre moral standards. She dates Scott in the beginning of the movie and she arguably cares about him more than any other character. She falls in love with Scott and is angry when she thinks that Ramona stole him from her. This leads to her making some rather rash decisions, such as dyeing her hair like Ramona, dating a member of Scott's band to try and make him jealous. Heck, she even outright attacks and fights Ramona in the finale. She's pushed to these actions, however, by Scott's lack of honesty in the scenario. He cheated on Knives and didn't tell her, and this led her to be bitter at Ramona rather than placing the blame where it belonged. In the end, Knives is the most understanding, and she puts aside her own feelings for Scott to tell him that he should be with Ramona instead. She sacrifices her own feelings because she wants Scott to be happy. Scott may be the protagonist, but I'd argue that Knives is the actual hero. The band. Scott's band, Sex Bomb, clever I know, consists of 3 others besides himself. Stephen Stills, the main singer and guitarist, Kim Pine, the drummer and a former flame of Scott's, and young Neil, who is just kind of there in the background. Stephen prioritizes the band above all else. He wants to succeed, and he's more than eager to sign the band onto a label at a moment's notice. While he understands that his band is garbage, he constantly wants them to get better and rise to the top. Kim is still harboring bitter feelings towards Scott, and has a very dry, sarcastic sense of humor. Her speech is very monotone, and she doesn't really show much emotion unless she is screaming the introduction to her band.
We are Sex Bomb, and we are here to watch Scott Pilgrim kick your teeth in! 1, 2, 3, 4!
She kind of reminds me of my roommate. Young Neil is very much the freeloader at first, not really contributing anything but being sort of a background hype man. And not even a good one. It's kind of like he's just along for the ride. By the end, however, he takes Scott's place in the band, as he knows how to play bass just as well as Scott, if not better. This leads him to being promoted in the only way a man with a name like that should be.
Young Neil, you have learned well. From this point forward, you will be known as Neil.
Now on the other side, we have the antagonists. This movie doesn't have a traditional villain. Instead, it's almost a gauntlet of antagonists. The League of Evil Exes. The League was created by Ramona's most recent breakup of the name Gideon G-Man Graves. The first evil ex that Scott has to fight is Matthew Patel. Ramona and Matthew dated during middle school, and as the story goes, they had only kissed once and then proceeded to break up a week later. He had the ability to shoot fireballs from his hands and call a horde of demon hipster chicks to his aid.
This guy's good. Me and my fireballs. My demon hipster chicks.
Tell me, Maddie.
Best characters in the movie, 10 out of 10. He is over-the-top glamorous and he thinks very highly of himself. He also dresses like a pirate.
Hey, what's up with his outfit?
Yeah. Is he a pirate?
Are you a pirate?
Pirates are in this year?
The second ex is Lucas Lee. He is a pro skateboarder who became a big famous actor. Lucas is cocky, very sure of himself. He doesn't just think he's hot stuff, he knows it. However, his pride is his downfall, as he gives in easily to peer pressure. He eventually dies by being tricked by Scott into performing a very dangerous thingy on his skateboard.
Can you do a thingy on that rail?
It's called a grind, bro.
So can you do a grindy thingy now?
Are you serious?
In my opinion, any sort of grinding is dangerous. The third ex is Todd Ingram. Todd is a vegan and has vegan powers, obviously. He is the bass player for the Clash at Demon Head, and is quite the excellent bassist. He is also really dumb, so that's us up for some funny monologues.
I dislike you, capiche?
Tell it to the cleaning lady on Monday.
What?
Because you'll be dust by Monday. Because you'll be pulverized in 2 seconds. And the cleaning lady, she cleans up. Dust. She dusts.
So what's on Monday?
Because it's Friday now. It's just the weekend's off, so Monday. Right?
Basically, you can't win this fight, so you're gonna have to give up on this girl because Todd's gonna kill you.
The fourth ex is Roxy Richter. The fourth ex is Roxy. She was Ramona's roommate in college and was trained in the way of a ninja. Just one ninja trained her. The rest of them, she's only trained in like one specific ninja's way. Everyone else's is completely different. They follow a certain pattern. So she follows just a way of a ninja. Oh my gosh. Because blonde hair wouldn't give a ninja away in the slightest. The fifth and sixth evil exes are the much easier to pronounce Kariyanagi twins. They are Japanese brothers who work together to perform their electronic music dragon magic. At least, I think that's what they're doing. By far the least in-depth of the villains. They have like 0 dialogue. The final evil ex is Gideon Gordon Graves. He is the man who brought together the League. He spent 2 hours compiling a group of people to kill Scott. You gotta admire that dedication. 2 whole hours. He is the most recent boyfriend of Ramona, and he is doing pretty well for himself. He is very rich and is the owner of the Chaos Theater in New York and in Toronto. He even has his own record label. He is very manipulative, wanting total control of everything within his power. This is apparent in the way he uses microchips to make Ramona side with him, and how he changes the appearance and the sound of Scott's band when they sell out to his label. And last but not least, well, actually kinda least, we have the supporting characters. The majority of support characters in this movie are less fleshed out than in the comics, but that's to be expected. And every supporting character does their job pretty well, moving the plot forward while simultaneously adding another layer of comedy. None of them really steal the show. Stacy Pilgrim is Scott's little sister, and her character is about as lovable as any little sister, I guess. She nags Scott about his actions, but doesn't really offer any solutions. Her character receives most of her gossip from Wallace, and she works at a coffee shop. Her character is probably the most one-dimensional, with her being used mostly for hilarious phone call scenes and getting her boyfriend stolen by Wallace. Julie Powers works at the same coffee shop that Stacy does, and is Steven Still's ex-girlfriend. There's not too much to say about her either. She's the one who usually throws the parties, which is somewhat odd considering that she never smiles. Her personality can be summed up in this scene.
Excuse me, do you have anything by the Clash at Demon Head?
Have you tried the section marked The Clash at Demon Head?
Thank you, Julie.
The best supporting character I'd have to say is Envy Adams. She has a past with Scott, as being the big breakup for him. Envy is the lead singer for the Clash at Demon Head, and the band's entrance to the movie is absolutely fantastic. She is dating Todd Ingram, the third of Ramona's evil exes. She gives off the vibe that she still has a thing for Scott, even though she's a pop star who has succeeded way beyond Scott's level. While the comics dive much deeper into her character, her appearance in the movie still does it justice, and it fits very well. And my all-time favorite character, Kamo. He knows everybody.
Hey, Como, you know everyone, right?
Yeah, pretty much I do.
You know this one girl with hair like this?
Yes, that's Ramona Flowers. Somebody said she was gonna be here tonight, actually.
Like any Edgar Wright movie, the characters are the main focus, and they're done extremely well because of the way they interact with their universe. It fits the pacing of his style of his movies like very, very well. It works super effectively, much like a Pokemon, and it gets the story across without wasting anybody's time, and the characters are a key part of that. All their humor and dialogue, it's fast-paced, it's to the point. It hits hard and doesn't overstay its welcome. So that's all I really have to say about the characters this week. Next week we're going to be covering the... I don't know. I'm just trying to go to bed right now, honestly. So it's like 7 o'clock somewhere in the world.
Which means it's time for me to sleep.
Oh, man. Anyway, next week we'll be back at you with another video. I'm going to see you guys. In the meantime, I was going to say something clever for the end, but I can't think of anything. So, I mean, see you guys.